The tireless boys kicked the face of the pupil sprawled on the soil. Huge blunder. He knew combat. The crimson leaves swirled beneath Finnegan Boyle's scuffed boots as he ambled around the playground, clutching his satchel's fabric like it was precious. Oakhaven Academy stretched ahead, its grey stone facade forming eerie patterns in the late afternoon darkness. Almost half a year since it had started, and each hour was like tiptoeing on thin ice. It had begun innocently enough. Brandon Hayes, the quarterback with arms big enough to hold the sky, had made an offhand remark concerning Finnegan's old-fashioned hat during supper. "Neat fedora, Gramps," he'd stated, yelling loud enough for everyone to listen. The outburst that ensued had been shrill, jabbing at Finnegan like shattered pottery. Yet, that was only the start. Brandon had a knack for spotting vulnerability, and he spotted Finnegan as a perfect mark. Reserved, intellectual, with few actual acquaintances and mothers and fathers who toiled relentlessly to provide for their tiny household. Finnegan's dad painted houses, his mother tended the elderly at their homes. They hardly noticed the marks that appeared on their boy's chest, the way his scores had begun failing, or how he'd stopped recounting his days at school. The torment had grown bit by bit. To start, it was nasty teasing in the halls. Next came the accidental knocks that made Finnegan slam into the lockers. Soon Brandon had gotten two devoted lackeys. Timmy Russo, a lean child with wicked eyes and a penchant to follow directions without question, and Damon Weiss, who made up for his lack of cleverness with pure happiness for causing harm. The group had formed a scheme. Every Wednesday and Friday after lessons, they would trap Finnegan behind the drama hall, in the empty space between the building and the solid brick wall that split school property from the wooded area far away. It was located perfectly, hidden away from the main roads, with no openings overlooking the area and far from the bicycle rack that no adults would walk nearby. Finnegan had attempted all options to dodge them. He'd lingered at school for pretend studying, took alternate streets toward home, even hid inside storage rooms until he thought that they were gone. Yet Brandon was calm, and he was cunning. He'd changed to fit each escape plan, sometimes waiting another hour to catch Finnegan when his focus was lacking. The meetings followed a repeated process. They'd encircle him, make him empty his pockets, and seize his coins. Usually it was only bus fare, $2 or $3, but sometimes it was bigger. Only last week they'd seized the $15 his uncle had passed him for helping him with garden work. When Finnegan tried speaking up, Brandon had shoved him so hard he'd cut his knees badly on the gravel. "Treat it as security money," Brandon had said, counting the bills with fake slowness. "For defending you from real trouble." The mental harm was possibly worse than the actual hits. Brandon had a gift for spotting the best words to injure him. He'd make fun of Finnegan's worn clothes, his broken glasses kept together with string, how he would eat alone at lunch. He'd mock Finnegan's tiny stutter, the one that showed up when he felt worried or frightened. He'd talk loudly regarding Finnegan's family, painting wild images of hardship and sadness that weren't too distant from reality. Yet Finnegan lived through all in quiet. He'd learned early in life that showing awareness of issues only made it worse. When you lacked money, when you stood out, when you were lonely, the best choice was to disappear and wait for the trouble to pass. Only this trouble showed zero signs of leaving. If anything, it worsened. Just last week, Brandon had begun bringing a handheld camera to record their sessions. "For our history," he'd explained, filming as Timmy held Finnegan tightly while Damon searched through his bag. "Maybe we can make you known on the internet." The risk of open shame had given a new level to Finnegan's worry. It was only one thing to be hurt by those three people at school. It was another to see that humiliation sent to the entire globe, staying forever in the cloud. Finnegan had thought of speaking to his guardians, but could they do much? They could hardly survive on what they had. His dad labored long shifts to provide for their small apartment. His mom's German was bad after many years in the country, and she feared any meeting with officials that might bring unwanted attention to their family's unclear citizenship. He'd considered speaking to a teacher, yet Brandon was careful to not leave marks that would show up easily. The marks were covered under clothing, and the mental pain was unseen to adults who had a crowd of kids to stress over. Also, Brandon's dad was a famous legal worker, and Brandon acted very well in class, respectful, clear, and kind whenever adults were near. So Finnegan had promised himself. He would wait for the end of the year. He would stay calm, take their hits, pass them his coins, and count each day until he could flee to a far-off place. It was surviving, not a noble choice, yet it was all he possessed, until now. Now, as Finnegan walked around the playground, he felt altered. Maybe it was the note he'd gotten yesterday. Acceptance to the college with money to help. Maybe it was how his dad had smiled when Finnegan showed him the letter. The truest happiness Finnegan had seen from him for a while. Or maybe it was just that after a very long time of ordered pain, something inside him had become something stronger, tougher. The school hours passed in the normal blur of studies and stress. Finnegan checked the timepiece often during sixth period, his belly aching as the last siren came nearer. He'd tried switching up when he went home, yet Brandon had changed to fit that too. No matter when Finnegan went, they would find him. At nearly 4, the bell sounded. Finnegan gathered his books with care, hoping to put off the thing he dreaded. As he stepped outside, he spotted Brandon leaning upon the gymnasium wall, arms crossed, a cruel smirk showing upon his face. "There's the man!" Brandon yelled, pushing away from the wall. "Right when we hoped!" Timmy and Damon stood beside him, making their normal shape of fear. Finnegan's heart beat hard, yet he made himself go forward. Maybe if he went quickly, if he didn't speak to them, they would stop caring. Brandon moved to block him, his big legs moving quicker than Finnegan's steps. "Hey, where are you going? Don't you want to spend time with your best friends?" "I must get back." Finnegan spoke low, his speech nearly unheard above others headed to their rides. "We should speak," Brandon said, his tone mocking him. "See, my love's big day is getting close, and I am short of money. I thought you would help me out." They went near their spot, Brandon's hand upon Finnegan's arm, in a way that seemed nice yet felt like being trapped. Timmy and Damon moved near, their being near reminding him he couldn't leave. Behind the hall, hidden from sight, the game would start. Brandon pushed Finnegan back, and he fell, his satchel dropping off and hitting the soil, which threw papers everywhere. "Empty it all," Brandon said, his speech losing its false kindness now that they stayed alone. Finnegan listened, his arms shaking as he brought out his wallet. In it were 2 notes, money his mom had passed him to buy better lenses, as his broken ones were kept together with strings and were barely useful. Brandon's eyes lit up when he spotted it. "Big money?" "Finnegan, you have been hiding it. That's not polite." "Please," Finnegan spoke, his voice breaking. "I need it. It's for..." "For what?" Brandon shouted, grabbing the bills. "For bad clothes. For that thing you call a device." Damon laughed, a rough sound that echoed off the grey walls. "Maybe he saves to get new friends." "Too hard," Timmy added. "Can't get anyone when you suck." Finnegan felt something growing in his chest, stress that had built for half a year. Each bad word, each shove, each dollar lost, each time of worry and pain, they were forming into something bad. "Listen up," Brandon said, pocketing the money and moving around Finnegan like a shark. "This is getting stale. Time to switch it up." He showed Timmy and Damon, who moved near Finnegan. Timmy grabbed his limbs and made him kneel upon the rough soil. "Thinking," Brandon spoke, his speech now sounding dangerous. "Being nice to you, you need to know how to act." Finnegan fought Timmy's hold, yet the small child was stronger than he seemed. Damon moved behind him, keeping him from rising. "Let me out," Finnegan spoke, his voice loud, full of worry. "Out," Brandon laughed. being fun." Brandon lifted his foot, and Finnegan saw clearly what would happen. The foot got near his head, and Finnegan knew that this had gone farther. "Know what you are," Brandon spoke, cold and slow. As Brandon's foot went down, aimed at Finnegan's head, something in Finnegan broke. For a while, using coins saved from chores near the area, Finnegan had taken fighting classes at a gym far away. Often he told his mom he was at the library, yet he went to fight. His trainer, a tired fighter, spoke to Finnegan, not just pain, but a deep well of anger that could become something good. He'd taught him that fights weren't rage. It was how, when, and what you did to stay safe. Fighting must be the last thing he'd spoken, yet when you must commit, little actions hurt you. Finnegan had not known he would need to use what he'd learned. He'd hoped that being able to fight would give him the peace to avoid fighting all the time. As he got up, seeing the shock on Brandon's face, he knew that he needed to fight. Timmy, shocked by Finnegan's steps, went for him. Yet Finnegan wasn't the weak person they knew. He moved his leg and struck his hand into Timmy's belly with force. The blow was on the mark. Like the trainer taught him to do, Timmy fell, nearly breathless. He fell back and fell, holding his belly and fighting to breathe. Damon, seeing his friend fall, waited for a bit. That wait was all Finnegan wanted. Finnegan had learned that most who had not been in a fight showed what they would do. Damon's face widened, his shoulders tight, and he drew his hand back ready to swing. Finnegan knew it was near. He stepped near Damon, blocked the punch with his arm, and gave a sharp hit to Damon's ribs. Damon fell, hurting. Yet Finnegan wasn't done. Bad feelings pushed his next move, a jab to Damon's nose and a blow to his jaw. Damon's head shook back, blood flowing from his nose, and he fell to his knee. Brandon, having gotten over his shock, was moving around Finnegan like a shark, checking its kill. The evil in his eyes had switched to danger. "You failed big," Brandon spoke, his arms in fists. "No," Finnegan said, his speech good. "Failing to know you could do this." Brandon was bigger, strong, and better than Finnegan, yet he fought people who could not fight. When he charged, his plan was bad, using size and pain, not skill. Finnegan stepped aside and used the boy's force on him, grabbing his shirt and using a throw he'd learned from his self-defense class. Brandon went flying and crashed into the brick wall with a great sound. The wall shook and Brandon fell off, feeling lost and angry. He spun, his face red. "You think you are strong now?" Brandon yelled, wiping blood from his face. "You think this does things?" Yet Finnegan saw the worry in Brandon's eyes. For once, the bad man was fighting one who could fight, and he didn't know how to act. Brandon moved again, slow, his arms up like he could box. Yet his safety was bad, his legs weak, and Finnegan saw many places to hit. Finnegan waited, calm, until Brandon threw a hit. He went to the side, stepped near, and gave a hit to Brandon's side. Brandon's face went white and he fell, his arms holding his side. Finnegan could have ended it, could have left. Bad feelings needed this to end. "For what you took," Finnegan said, hitting Brandon's face, which shook his head. "For each mark you gave," he spoke, with a hit which made Brandon's legs weak. "This," Finnegan spoke, moving back for one last hit, "for hurting my head." The hit got Brandon's face, and the big boy fell to the soil. Finnegan stood over him, breathing, his hands hurting a bit. Timmy stayed down, trying to breathe. Damon held his nose and stared at Finnegan with fear. "It ends," Finnegan said, his speech loud. "Everything, all of it, no more." Timmy got to his feet, his face pale and tired. You can't..." "Can't what?" Finnegan shouted, his speech strong. "Can't fight back? Can't stay safe when you hurt me?" Damon tried to stand, blood coming from his nose. Brandon's going to what?" Finnegan shouted. "Speak to his dad that he and his gang were beat up by the boy they hurt for so long? To say why we are behind the gym, why I have hurts on my arms, why you have my coins in your arms?" They watched each other, feeling worried. They'd never thought they would be here. All of their bad acts had needed Finnegan to be quiet, to not fight back. "Here is what happens," Finnegan spoke, his speech taking a tone that shocked him. "Help Brandon get up, pass me my coins, all you took, and then leave me." "We don't have all the money," Timmy spoke low. "Get it," Finnegan said, "or I speak to the man. The videos, the takes, the harm. I speak on what you did to me, and I leave him to do what he must." Brandon began to move, hearing things again. Finnegan grabbed the coins from Brandon's pocket, the coins that had started this. "Mine," he said, keeping the bills. "You can pass it all to me." Brandon's eyes opened, and he felt lost before he knew it all. He tried getting up, felt pain, and did his best to prop himself. "What?" He spoke, his words slow. "You lost," Finnegan said. "You tried hurting my head, and you failed." Brandon felt lost, angry, and maybe scared. He'd become someone who caused pain, and being beat by one he'd called weak was ruining him. "Not over," Brandon said, but his speech was weak. "Yes," Finnegan said. "Say to your dad why you face harm. Tell the man why his man is hurting others. Show the college why you did bad." Brandon's face got pale. His football was how he got to college. Worrying it was worse than the pain. "You can't," Brandon said. "Try me," Finnegan said. "I am not your kill. I won't allow you to hurt others." Finnegan got his bag, keeping the papers in it. His hands shook, yet his speech was good. "I walk," he said. "If you near me again, I do what I did today. Got it?" They nodded, not talking, their brave acts gone. Finnegan walked, leaving them, and he felt good. He had stood up for himself. The next day, Finnegan got an envelope in his room with money, more than he'd hoped, yet they thought being nice would save them. There was a note from Brandon. "All good. We leave you." Finnegan kept the coins and tossed the note. He did not need Brandon to leave. Over weeks, the switch in Finnegan showed. He walked tall, spoke with care, and sat with others in the lunchroom, kids who were good, yet he feared. The story of what took place had gone around, getting big. Finnegan had become the boy who fought back. He had learned that he was strong, and he had gotten free. The weak boy was still him, yet he was the one who had stayed true and didn't allow pain. Brandon and his gang gave him room, their acts down. They caused trouble, yet Finnegan looked after others. He had learned that to end a bad act, you must fight back, and to find power, you must be put where you must use it. The note to the college stayed on his wall, yet it was more than leaving. It was a sign that he could fight for his life. Finnegan Boyle had learned to stand up, and he had found what he was.